Miracle Dice time. Now, generally, this is a very small balance patch, so I'm going to cover all of the factions in one video, where normally I would split them up into Sisters and Genestealer Cult and Deathwatch, maybe with Imperial Agents, maybe Imperial Agents separate, depends on the changes to them. I think I got all the changes that are relevant to us, but the rules updates are still very app-based. Some rules you will not find in any of the PDFs, only on the app. And there's gonna be mistakes, as we'll get to. There had been a fix to the reinforcement step wording, but I couldn't find it because the app is not a PDF, and when I searched reinforcement step, nothing came up. Your comments are the only way I learn what rules changes there have been. So I'm sorry, I'm also relying on you to tell me things and everyone else things, and as a, community, we will get the rules correct for what has changed in this balance patch. Yay for being part of something! What I expected for the missions was a much bigger change to the, way things are scored. The primary missions. It's been like 2 or 3 months, Games Workshop. Surely you can start tearing up your cards and writing on new rules for the cards. You have done for every other card deck in 10th edition. I thought there might be a change to disruption so that it can score better, especially against priority assets. But no. Instead we get map tweaks to maybe help disruption a little bit. Some major map updates, which I'm not going to go through because it's not really relevant to the factions. It's a change that's only going to be annoying if you would memorize the maps, and I don't think many people outside tournament regulars had tried to do that. For everyone else, you still set up your map based on how it says in the app. Unless you want to do it by the card deck, where you set up some terrain as you like it, and you make it fun, and more thematic to the area. Don't put any buildings or area terrain on a road, for example, unless it's a barricade. That'll work, but no buildings on roads. Now, don't misunderstand me. I like it when the physical media rules remain as valid rules. So the card deck primary missions, what's printed there, is still valid. But when Games Workshop has such a focus on balance, I thought they would make a more direct approach towards helping disruption. Only changing some maps in the periphery and not making the card deck invalid didn't really match with the rest of what Games Workshop has done generally when it comes to core rulebooks and codices. The app change I could find was that 2 more kinds of disembark move has been added. One kind that you do if you're allowed to charge after disembarking out of a transport, even if the transport moved. Another that lets you disembark from a transport, even if the transport advanced. These aren't disembark moves you can make generally. You can only do them if there's a rule, like a stratagem, that allows you to disembark after advancing the transport. That first kind of move is called an assault disembark move. The second kind of move is called a shock disembark move. So carry forth the faithful, you now do a shock disembark move. The bit I don't understand is the after moving section. Each model that started this move engaged with an enemy unit must still be engaged with that enemy unit? We disembarked from a transport. We started the move inside a transport. And the transport wasn't able to fall back and then us do this because the idea is you make an advance move, not a fallback move. What it looks like they've done is copied the wording from the ongoing consolidation bit from 12.08 and added it to this 18.07. Hey Games Workshop, you need to fix your stuff after you tried to fix your stuff. The copy and edit strikes again. They're not going to update each individual stratagem to make it easier for you to understand which kind of disembark move you do. So carry forth the faithful will continue to say, your transport can advance, and then your unit can still disembark. And it's up to you to know that you're not doing an emergency disembark or throwing yourself from the transport to take mortal wounds. You disembark like a normal person, and then you can't charge. Follow what the stratagem says more than what this rule says. This is a general, you do a version of disembark that isn't the other kind of disembark. That's the main thing. Now we move on to the Adepta Sororitas. Of all of the struggling factions in 40k right now, the Adepta Sororitas have been given a boost and also some penalty. Miracle dice are weaker at the start of 11th edition. I explained this in a separate video, but you now have to substitute miracle dice before you make any group of rolls, if it's a group. So if you have to make saves, you roll all the saves at the same time. Doesn't matter if there's a feel no pain in some places and not others. Doesn't matter if there's invulnerable saves in some places and not others. Doesn't matter if there's different armor save values in a unit. You roll all your save rolls at once. If you want to use a miracle dice on the save, you need to substitute in a dice before making any dice rolls. So you can't pass 2, see that you will survive if you can guarantee passing the third one, then add in a miracle dice. You have to add in your miracle dice first, then roll the other 2 dice and hope that neither of them are failures, otherwise you've lost your model and wasted a miracle dice. To compensate us, miracle dice are now gained at the start of each turn. This is different from battle round. A turn is a player turn. So that is 10 miracle dice across the course of the game, assuming that you're able to play the full game. You're not getting wiped out, your opponent's not getting wiped out, you're not running out of time to play everything. So we go back to getting 1 miracle dice per player turn instead of battle round, and it has happened! The wheel has fully turned back to the Codex rule of 10th edition. After various patches to stop us from getting miracle dice from every unit being destroyed, stopping us from getting miracle dice at the start of a turn, making it so it's the start of the battle round, then going back so that the miracle dice we got was the start of the battle round or when any unit was destroyed. Now we go all the way back to getting a miracle dice at the start of every player turn and when each of your Adepta Sororitas units is destroyed. What is written in the 10th edition Codex is true once more. What a wild time we live in, where a codex is valid in 11th edition of 40k. At least some bits of it. I'm still gonna play Army of Faith because I need even more miracle dice. More! If miracle dice are the army rule, I'm gonna get as many as I can. Now we get to the next awkward rule step when Games Workshop updates some rules and doesn't fully update the rules. The Triumph of St. Catherine has been updated from the Codex many months ago to say that each time you gain a miracle dice at the start of the battle round, it becomes a 6. So we have to try and make that compatible with getting a miracle dice at the start of each player turn. And really the only way to make it work is to say, okay, to start the battle round, my miracle dice is a 6. Then the next player turn, we get a miracle dice, but it's not a 6, you roll it randomly. After that, to start the battle round again, so you get a miracle dice of a 6 as long as the Triumph of St. Catherine's on the table. They're not setting the Triumph back to how it was written in the Codex, where each player turn, the miracle dice you get is a 6. I don't know if this is intentional, I don't know if it's something that's been forgotten. But the only logical way I can see to play it is if you go first, it's the start of the battle round, you get a miracle dice of a 6. At the start of your opponent's turn, you roll a dice and get a random miracle dice. We're only partially going back to the 10th edition Codex. Now I'm just wondering if we can go back even further to the end of 9th edition and then I can have Celestians with guns without this counts as of them getting demoted to be battle sisters and you're not being able to play with your Celestians with guns because there's no rules, as is going to happen to many Space Marine units, like the Tactical Squad and the Devastator Squad. Celestians, anyway, as a topic. Celestian Insidiants now have the Celestian keyword. The way keywords work are you cannot take a keyword from a phrase and say, I have that keyword. A big mech is not also a mech. Commissar Yarrick is not a commissar. He is Commissar Yarrick, which is something completely different. So now Celestian Insidiants are also named as Celestians. The Champions of Faith detachment has been updated, so Celestian Insidiants can now benefit from this detachment, at least the detachment rule. So now when they're made righteous, they get to add one to their move, add one to their leadership, add one to their weapon skill and ballistic skill. They don't get the separate part for increasing their objective control. That's for Celestian Sacrosancts only. So Celestian Insidiants will benefit a bit more. They're a very nice unit. I prefer them over Sacrosancts. And now there's another reason to prefer them over Sacrosancts. The Champions of Faith detachment that's about Celestians will also help them. It doesn't do anything for Celestian Aveline. She has Celestian in the name, but that's not the same thing as being Celestian. We just talked about keywords. But stratagems in the Champions of Faith that reference Celestian Sacrosancts will not affect Celestian Insidiants. The same thing has happened in the Sacred Champions attachment. Celestians get +1 weapon skill and +1 ballistic skill. In the Sacred Champions, previously Celestian Sacrosancts got +1 weapon skill and +1 ballistic skill. Now it is changed to Celestian keyword units. Celestian Insidiants have the Celestian keyword, that's right at the top of the Adepta Sororitas faction pack. Way down at the other end at the bottom, it says that Celestian Sacrosancts are now also Celestian. This is a keyword that has not been added to the app in the update that just went live. So there's a discrepancy between the app version, where the Celestian Sacrosancts will not get the benefit of this detachment rule they previously had benefit of, and the PDF version, where they are considered Celestians and will get the benefit of +1 weapon skill, +1 ballistic skill at the same time as the Insidiants. But then all of the enhancements and stratagems in that detachment specify Celestian Sacrosancts, except for the haste enhancement. Yay for Celestian Insidiants getting a little bit of a boost in a detachment that wasn't about them, but this is still a detachment for the Celestian Sacrosancts. If you have some Insidiants and don't have Celestian Sacrosancts, I recommend either of the other two 1 detachment point detachments instead of this one. Now we'll get on to the nerf. The Celestine nerf. Celestine has been changed so that her tiers can only bring back Gemini. What you could do in 11th edition was have her destroyed, then she gets back up on a 2+, then she can continue using her tiers to bring back her Gemini or bring back her unit that she was with, the Seraphim or the Zephyrim. Even after the whole group has been wiped out, you could start to regrow the entire unit from there. Now instead you can only bring back Gemini. So this is a way of getting back to 10th edition, where previously the dead Seraphim and the dead Celestine would become separate units, and she could only regrow the 2 Gemini that were part of her original bought unit. It's a more elegant solution than saying Celestine comes back with a unit strength of 1, or a unit strength of 3 brackets but only her and Gemini. I understand all that. The bigger problem I now have is when Celestine is with a unit of Zephyrim and some Zephyrim die, she cannot heal them with her tiers. She cannot bring them back. At all, ever. So you should make the Gemini the first target allocation group whenever you get attacked, so that the Gemini die, and then Celestine can at least bring them back. Definitely a penalty, no points reduction to compensate. And with no points reduction, Celestine isn't really worth 150 points anymore. She's back to being an expensive unit that completes secondary missions and annoys the enemy as she can get back up. If you play Hallowed Martyrs, take a Canoness, activate her 2+ invulnerable save when she's threatened, like when she's about to be shot or when she gets charged, then get back up with the Divine Intervention stratagem and keep completing actions. Way cheaper than Celestine. The wording of Divine Intervention in Hallowed Martyrs has been changed again. So this is the Codex version, mini app version, 11th edition version, second 11th edition. I think the 5th time that Divine Intervention has been updated since at least the 10th edition Codex, if not another time since the 10th edition Index. It's clearer now that one character model dies. It could be from precision. Then you use this stratagem immediately, you don't wait for the rest of the unit to be destroyed, and you return your one character model, but as a unit on their own, with one model and a unit strength of 1 that cannot be increased. So no returning a Hospitaller and regrowing a whole squad from that. That makes a bit more sense with how they should have had it in the last balance patch. Maybe things can get updated before September, maybe not. They do occasionally do a rules fixy thing between balance patches and then not tell us. The funny thing about the Venomthrope, that was fixed between the last balance patch where it was introduced and the current balance patch I'm talking about today. You're not gonna notice. They don't tell you. This is why I mentioned it in my what should change, because I assumed nothing had changed. It's like I'm fighting the rules team to make sense of things. But for the Sisters overall, no points changes at all. You'll have to wait for when the Space Marine Codex comes out, and then we will see if there's a big points drop on everything so that we hoard our way across the 41st millennium. I hope not. I don't want 60 battle sisters to be the norm. I want to be unique in doing that. Maybe sisters will get better bolters, and all our bolters and storm bolters will go up to strength 5. Maybe. Don't hold out hope of sisters becoming toughness 4. Only Space Marines are special. Only Space Marines get bonuses. You have to properly be a Space Marine, otherwise you're neglected. In some way. Okay, the Genestealer Cult, who like to stay neglected, who like to stay downtrodden for the time being until the Day of Ascension. There is no rules update for the Genestealer Cult, no points update for the Genestealer Cult, and that's not the best. In the past, when we've had no update and we've been doing well, we've been like, shh, nobody say anything, and we've got away with it. This time, we definitely could have done with a bit of a help. The random 9 bike models is still around. I suppose if they didn't look at the Genestealer Cult, they're not going to fix the Genestealer Cult's problems or errors. Having 9 bikes honestly does nothing for no one, anywhere. Tournament players 100% agree, there's no improvement. If you're thinking blast means that you get 1 fewer shot with blast, that is true of every unit. And people were not taking 9 bikes specially. You couldn't take 9 bikes. The core idea of the points in the 11th edition is you take exactly the numbers that they say, 5 or 10. You're not meant to do the in-between number of models, the way that you could do in 10th edition. The Brood Brothers Auxiliary stratagems are still very rubbish. Or we can prevent the enemy from firing Overwatch after they've had the chance to fire Overwatch and probably fired Overwatch. Good stuff, yeah. At least we know that a dark network is used in the movement phase, after an enemy's unit is set up from reserves within 12 inches. As long as you were able to find that on the app. Well, now I'm telling you it's there, because some people in the comments told me that it was there. Thank you to those people. Games Workshop isn't going to update the wording on these stratagems. They're going to put the rule there. You've got to find the rule. It's the path of least effort for them to do. But unfortunately, that is also the path that is hardest to find the rules to play the game correctly. The Genestealer Cult are doing okay-ish as a faction. Last balance patch, we got a fix to our army rules so that we can return units even if there was a character in the unit. But we're under 50% win rate, generally. I like the Pure Strain Brood Swarm best of the 1 detachment point detachments. Having Strength 5 and Toughness 5 Genestealers seems super cool and special. I wonder if other units in the game are suddenly going to be Strength 5 and Toughness 5. Oh, they are? Well, that's a lot less special. Which detachment do you like the best? It could be one of the bigger detachments, it could be one of the smaller detachments. I've had more success with Host of Ascension and Mass Ignore Cover to counter the horrible penalty to the Neophyte's Ballistic skill than I have with lots of small detachments. You definitely need your Ridge Runners with Survey Augurs. That is the one upgrade to pick. I'm emphasizing one because there was a Genestealer Cult tournament player who had multiple upgrades on their unit. Not allowed. That's cheating. Gotta be honest on the Day of Ascension. Or you can go for a more combat-focused Genestealer Cult army based around Biosanctuary Brute Surge or Xenocreed Congregation. Then you don't care if enemies are in cover. -1 ballistic skill doesn't matter when you're not shooting them or you're only shooting them with hand flamers. When the Space Marines get their update, we'll see what they do with the Genestealer Cult in terms of points, and we'll figure out ways to cope with even stronger Space Marines, even tougher Space Marines. Otherwise, you can check out the video on what I expect will happen to the Genestealer Cult detachments when the Codex comes around. Deathwatch Space Marines. Deathwatch are going to get an update when the Space Marine Codex comes out at the start-ish of October. Then we should see sweeping improvements and changes to all of our units. Unless they say, oh, the Fortis kill team. Oh, no. That's a counts as intercessor. Couldn't possibly have a unit that looks too much like a tactical squad. I think Games Workshop is jealous of tactical marines. Like the people who invented the tactical marines have left and formed their own company. And now Games Workshop wants to replace them. Now in 10th edition, at the start of 10th edition, people were taking quite a few tactical marines. And Games Workshop thought, okay, no, it's fine. They'll go back to intercessors when the Codex comes out. And the Space Marine 10th edition Codex came out, and people kept taking tactical squads. It's a pretty cheap unit that automatically splits itself into 2 separate squads of 5. Yeah, I'm going to have that over intercessors, which have sticky objectives, just sticky objectives. Because why would I need to objective secure my home objective? I still need 5 models to stay on there. Could be infiltrators. They're better than intercessors. Or you have a tactical squad. Then you can have 5 models on your home objective and 5 models with special and heavy weapons going around shooting things. So then Games Workshop did an emergency patch to update the intercessors to give them loads of shots so that they could keep up and might actually be taken over tactical squads. And then they were. And now Games Workshop's going to delete the tactical squad rules, no legends rules, count your Space Marine, Tactical Marine with a plasma gun as an intercessor. And slowly the strength of the bolt rifle and the damage of the bolt rifle and the AP of the bolt rifle might climb until it is plasma gun level. Just to make the intercessors good. Right, Deathwatch proper though. Yes, an update will be coming at the same time as all of the other Space Marine things. This has been mentioned on social media, on YouTube comments, on Facebook comments, but it wasn't included in their video and it wasn't included in their article because they forgot the Deathwatch. Other things they have continued to forget about the Deathwatch are mission tactics as a faction rule. It is there as a faction rule. If you look on the app, you have both Oath of Moment and mission tactics. Officially, we have 2 concurrent army rules, but one is like an always-on detachment rule regardless of which detachment you play in. In 10th edition, there was an FAQ to say, no, you only get mission tactics in the Black Spear Task Force. That rule has been deleted in 11th edition. In 11th edition, there is no such rule. Officially, you have 2 army rules. Oath of Moment, of course, being not as effective if you're taking a lot of veteran kill teams and Decimus kill teams because they get rerolls anyway. Reroll of hit rolls of 1, potentially full rerolls if you're against an alien faction. And Games Workshop couldn't pass up a balance patch without making the Devastator Centurions even more expensive. It's another rage source for Paul. Make sure he really suffers for taking Centurions in the last time he can take Centurions to a tournament, unless he goes to cool tournaments where they allow Legends units. Most tournaments are not cool places. The Librarian in Terminator armor is a bit more expensive, the Land Raider Redeemer is a bit more expensive, but it was made far too cheap. I think its points will likely go back down to where it was at the start of 11th edition once it has rules in the Space Marine Codex, and then its flamers will become a set 6 shots with blast. Lots of shots, but with blast, it won't be able to fire while engaged in combat. I was really expecting land speeder points to go up. They have shoot and then move, they have good weapons. The land speeder detachment combines well with the Dark Angels Hunter detachment. It's a bit too good, but the Dark Angels are not getting penalties. They are very happy. They are the best performing Space Marine faction right now. A minor increase in the points to Samael and making the 3rd Black Knight unit more expensive isn't going to change that. Especially when their Devastator Centurions did not go up in points. Oh, and Vulcan's up by 10 points, but that doesn't really affect the Deathwatch. The Armored Spear tip has had a little bit of a stratagem change, so you can explicitly get back inside a transport you disembarked from this turn. I'm pretty sure that was how it worked in 10th edition, as that was how I played it. The whole idea was it was a hit and run stratagem, but 11th edition's embarking and disembarking rules may have changed that temporarily so it didn't work, and now it works again. On to the Imperial Agents, where there are no updates. But the Imperial Agents are doing okay now they can actually play the game with the detachments and dispositions available to them. However, there are not enough people confident in using the Imperial Agents to make a go of it. Also, even if their rules are quite good, like averaging 53% win rate from normal people, excluding the few people who go and take them to tournaments and do really, really well, a big barrier is people don't own the models, and not many people are meta chasers that are going to buy a whole faction of kill teams unless they play the game Kill Team. The problems that the Imperial Agents have still remain. It's hard to get into the faction. It's an army of mass infantry with a couple of transports. Their abilities that cause battle shock happen at a bad time for battle shock. It's at the start of the command phase before the enemy gets to roll for battle shock, where they can undo that battle shock they just got immediately. And the Caluxus Assassin has Torrent and Precision, and Torrent is not allowed to be combined with Precision. So I'm assuming that what you do is it's relegated to a basic flamer. Rather than you choosing which one of the 2 tags to use, because it doesn't have a ballistic skill, you'll have to take it as torrent, and that precision part of the assassin isn't going to get to be used. So a relatively mild update for all of the factions. September is going to be the last monthly balance patch, so 4 weeks-ish from now. However, there will then be a very big update at the start of October when they fully delete a lot of Space Marine units and make some passable Legend rules for others. Legends rules can be updated. They keep shuffling around on which units have frame in Legends, like the Talon Master lost frame. But proxy counts as units get nothing. And the Space Marine Codex release will also have a big change in the strength and toughness of all of the Space Marine factions. So in the September balance patch, there may not be a points change happening then, or they may work in the Space Marine Codex release with the end of September balance patch. And that's when they'll do the changes to the Chaos Space Marines and the Grey Knights. If they don't do a whole balance at the same time as the Space Marine Codex, then other factions, like the Genestealer Cult, will be left floundering and facing super strong and super tough Marines that will dominate until December's balance patch. I outline a few more things that can happen in this video. I hope the balance patch has been good for you. I hope you have a great day of 40k.